Interrupting my regularly scheduled pre-filmed content schedule to give you a real-time update of what's currently happening with our public lands as of today, February 20th, 2025, how this affects you as a van lifer, car camper, or just a recreationalist in general, as someone who likes to go outside and use our public lands for hunting, fishing, hiking, whatever, and what you can do to take steps to help protect these lands moving forward. Also, before we dive into it, just like any educated college student's research paper, or in this case, research video, I've linked my sources down below, and I have notes that I will be referencing throughout this video to make sure that I get those sources correct. So if you see me looking at my phone, that's why. Starting with my main motivation for wanting to make this video is on February 14th, thousands of federal employees were fired. And disclaimer, this is happening in multiple different areas of the government, but the thing that I'm going to be focusing on in this video specifically is the National Forest Service and the Department of Interior, which includes national parks, national monuments, BLM land, fish and wildlife services, and things like that. So while I acknowledge that there are many other things going on right now, this is what I'm focusing on, mostly because I've worked a job in conservation. So I've worked with the national park system, I've worked in the national forest, and I understand that there's a lot of work that goes into these places to help keep them accessible for people like you who want to go visit them. So, starting with the numbers, 3,400 Forest Service workers were fired February 14th. That is 10% of the entire National Forest Service workforce, which is already understaffed. Most of these workers included probationary employees, but probation doesn't mean that they did anything wrong. Probationary employee means that they worked their ass off as a seasonal employee for years in order to get a full-time position, that they are now in their first or second year of that full-time position, and they're on probation for the first part. Then after that, they're supposed to be guaranteed their job. They're no longer on probation. So it was those workers, those were the 10% let go from the Forest Service. In addition to that 3,400 workers, there were 2,200 or more workers in the Department of Interior that were fired. That includes specifically 1,000 National Park Service workers, in addition to workers in the Bureau of Land Management, Fish and Wildlife Services, and the United States Geological Survey. I personally know people who have been fired. I personally know people who have coworkers who have been affected by this, and it's happening. It's real. And the emails that these people are receiving are telling them that they're being fired based on their performance. But the people that they're being fired by have never seen them in a day's work. And also, we're not the people to write their last job review. And fun fact, as of February 19th, national park employees are filing a lawsuit against the government because they're saying that they have their previous performance review and it doesn't align with their firing email. And so that'll be fun to watch develop. Now, another reason that these people are being fired is due to wasteful spending. But mind you, national parks and national forests are already understaffed, underfunded, and national parks contributed a record high of $55.6 billion to the United States economy in 2023 alone. This includes $26.4 billion for communities that surround national parks. These communities rely on tourism at these national parks. So is it really wasteful spending? I don't know. The next thing that I want to discuss are the orders that were passed by the Secretary of Interior on February 3rd. The first one being Order number 3417, which is addressing the nation's energy emergency. They're claiming that there's an energy emergency in the United States and we need to find more places to drill in order to meet the needs of the American people and to create more jobs for the American people. But when you look at the data from the Energy Information Administration, the EIA, provided by the United States government, it shows that we produced more barrels of crude oil in 2024 than we did ever before. So my question is, what do we need all of this extra power for? But then on the same day, the Secretary of Interior released another order, number 3418, titled Unleashing American Energy, which is basically a blueprint of how they plan to go find this extra power and how they're going to do it. They're, quote, encouraging energy exploration and production on federal lands and waters, and, quote, offering more parcels of the public land for oil and gas leasing for private companies. It's important to note that in this order, they're not just interested in oil, they're also interested in gas and other rare minerals like uranium mining and lithium mining. And again, they're saying that they're doing all of this to prioritize the American people and increase jobs in the mining and oil sector, which the previous administration did a lot to get rid of, and so also included in order number 3418 is getting rid of a lot of those things. Or, quote, the removal of impediments imposed on the development and use of the nation's abundant energy and national resources. Okay, so what will this cause? What does this mean for you as a car camper, van lifer, recreationalist in the United States? Well, the National Park Conservation Association has conducted a review, and using data from the Department of Energy, they've pinpointed different national monuments or specific pieces of public land that are at specifically high risk for being chosen for selling off to private investors and drilling and mining. However, instead of reading you the list of places that they have named, I'm going to insert a slideshow of photos of these beautiful places to show you what they look like right now. And obviously, the companies will claim that they can do all of this drilling and mining in a way that's safe for the environment, but just do a quick search on how many environmental disasters have been caused by drilling and mining, and maybe don't believe them. So that's what the orders, specifically 3417 and 3418, will cause, is those monuments to be looked at for prospective drilling. But what about the firing of all of the employees? What does that mean for you? That means understaffed national parks and national forests, which are already understaffed, which means there will be no trash pickup, no sewage removal, aka overflowing pit toilets, not enough staff to keep up with peak visitation demands, closed campgrounds, amenities, and parks, long wait times to enter the parks that are open, less park rangers to protect animals from dumb humans, and less park rangers to come to your rescue, i.e. flat tires stuck in the sand, dangerous animal encounter, etc. There's less or no search and rescue or emergency medical teams to come rescue you in the case of emergency. There will be unkept trails, meaning overgrown bushes, fallen trees, water erosion, less staff to fight the forest fires, and less staff for wildlife conservation. So even if you don't necessarily see workers when you're out recreating, just know that there's a lot that goes in behind the scenes to keep these places running and accessible to recreate on, including camping, fishing, hunting, hiking, etc. And so having less staff at these parks ultimately means that there's going to be reduced accessibility and recreation on public lands because there's going to be closed hiking trails and parks due to neglect. There's going to be closed rivers and lands due to toxic waste from mining and drilling. Help is way less likely to be available if you go too far beyond your capabilities and get lost or injured. Less fish and wildlife employees to issue permits, and specifically more damage to our already abused national forests and BLM land by people who just dump their trash or leave their campsite looking like a pigsty. And this also means that less conservation workers are able to be in the field to help do things to preserve the land and the wildlife for future generations, leading to trail erosion and permanent environmental damage. Now, for the last part of the video, what can you do for your public lands? Well, first of all, you can still recreate. You can still go outside. However, I do have some things that I would like to mention to keep in mind when you're out recreating. First of all, leave no trace. That is more important now than ever, to pack out what you pack in and leave absolutely no trace. And when you go to these places, like national forests specifically, or national parks, take a trash bag. And if you see trash on the ground, pick it up, even if it's not yours. And when you're out recreating, either in national forests or national parks or other places like BLM land, use your voice. If you see someone doing something, use that as an opportunity to educate them about leave no trace. Don't be a bitch about it, but be like, hey, I saw that maybe you didn't bury your feces when you took a shit earlier. This is why that's important. And if you don't want to do that, maybe consider packing out your shit. Thank you. That is my personal pet peeve. Next thing you can do if you don't really have the energy to do anything else, I'm planning to host a donation-based yoga class next Friday where all of the proceeds will be donated to the National Park Conservation Association, and you can pay on a sliding scale, so you can pay anywhere from $5 to $50. Regardless, everything will be donated. So if you want to make a donation while doing yoga, the class will be live at a certain time that I haven't decided, but I'll put on the screen. And if you can't attend live, then you can, of course, get the Zoom recording sent to your email afterwards and practice whenever it's convenient for you. But that's one thing that I'm doing to try to give back, is giving back yoga to you guys to help calm down while also giving back to nature. Next, if you have a little bit more energy, email all of your representatives. I've linked, I think, 5 different email templates that I've come across down in the description. Some of them have to do with the National Park Service staff being fired. Others have to do with the drilling operation. So if there's a certain issue that really speaks to you, you can find the email template and use that. Or if you have even more energy, what does better than emails is calling. So finding the phone number for your specific state's representatives and calling them and telling them what you think about this. Because they're not going to hear you just by ranting on the internet or resharing memes to your story. You got to tell them directly and use your voice. Next, if you have even more energy, something else that you can do is go to your local national park or national forest organization and ask them if there's a way that you can volunteer your time to help them in any way, whether that's just picking up garbage or anything else that they have. They're gonna need extra help in these times, especially as summer approaches. So if you can, donate your time, even if you can't donate your money. And then if you want to donate your time for money, if you can, try to work in conservation. Try to find those jobs that are still available. They're still hiring some seasonal employees, but I personally am trying to get a job in conservation seasonally this summer, and it's all up in the air because nobody fucking knows. So I would say just keep trying. I'm going to keep trying. And if you can work in conservation, preserve the planet in exchange for a paycheck, like, I honestly think that's the best thing that you can do right now to fight back. And I just want to end this video with reading to you the last little bit of my notes, because this is speculation on my part, but it's connecting the dots as to why are they doing this? Why are they firing all of these national park employees at the same time that they're searching for new possibilities for oil, gas, and other rare minerals? Because they're claiming that they want to find all of these natural gas and oil resources in order to produce jobs for the economy, but they just fired like 5,500 people, so what's your argument again? Oh yeah, the person nominated to be president of the Bureau of Land Management under this new administration is a woman who is associated with the Western Energy Alliance, and they're associated with independent oil and natural gas companies who have interest in our public lands. So they're not per se putting someone with connections to these private oil and natural gas companies in charge of our public lands while firing all of the dedicated workers who actually care about our public lands because they want to sell the public lands to these private oil and natural gas companies. No? No? Right, I must be crazy. Okay, good night. No, but seriously, if any of this upset you, don't just sit there and be upset. Do something. Email your representatives, call your representatives, make your voice heard because you still have a voice. I don't know how long this will be applicable, and maybe I'll make an updated video in the future, but yeah, thanks for watching.